Hey there, everyone. There were some things I wanted to explain about my social media. Um, I know when some people see things, they get triggered and it provokes a lot of different thoughts. Um, it usually feeds their paranoia, um, because they do not see things the same way I do. They interpret it differently and they take it out of context. And this is very important because a lot of people don't actually ask me directly about my opinions on anything. Um, I'll put up some examples. Um, the Harley Quinn character from Batman and the Joker and Carnage and Venom from um, movies, cartoons, comic books. Um, Venom and Carnage, I know very little about. I watched the cartoon from the 90s, the TAS one. I don't even know what that's called. I used to think for some reason it was called the original series, but it obviously wasn't the original Spider-Man, but TAS is referred to as the 90s Spider-Man. Anyway, they didn't get too far into depth about those two characters. Um, they're entertaining episodes. I remember watching them as a young person, quite good, but evidently they have way darker history in the comic books. I didn't read comic books growing up, so you know. Uh, I do have a stack of comic books in my basement that an old neighbor at my dad's rental apartment had given us, a few hundred copies, as a matter of fact, but there were not the good ones. In fact, there was only one X-Men comic book, and it was like the lamest thing I'd ever read. So I haven't even been bothered to read the other ones. They're just sitting in a box in my basement. Certainly, no Spider-Man comic books. They're all like absurd ones that he couldn't sell at his store before he moved away to the Vancouver Island. Um, like there are a lot of really interesting comic books out there. I have not invested any time in looking at them. Like I don't know, like the only reason I even really know anything about a darker history of certain characters, I guess in particular the Joker and Harley Quinn, is because there are certain YouTube channels that probably pop up in most people's news feeds anyway, regardless if you look at them or not. For example, from What Culture comics. Um, 10 worst things the Joker has ever done to Harley Quinn. Uh, Official life facts. 10 things DC wants you to forget about Harley Quinn. Watchmojo. Top 10 worst things the Joker has ever done. And yada, yada, yada. Um, I don't actually watch even these that much, and they just briefly go through uh, the major things. And a lot of things had to be taken into consideration. Like, for example, different writers have a different slant on how these characters are portrayed. A lot of people go, well, oh, let's readjust my camera here. Heath Ledger, he played the Joker. Um, the Joker character comes with a lot of baggage. But from the movie, the Joker was well played. It was geared towards an older audience as opposed to the previous Batman movies, with George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton. Even though Michael Keaton's ones are a little dark too. But one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way, happy birthday. They were entertaining. A lot of people thought they were cheesy, and they kind of were. But as a young person growing up, I watched them in the theaters. Um, what I'm getting at is, in the comic books, these characters are a lot darker, and the characters are a lot more serious. Based on what little I have watched of these clips by these YouTube channels depicting and telling about how out there those characters are in the comic books. It is completely different reading something in a comic book as opposed to seeing cartoon or even movie about certain characters. Um, Venom and Carnage uh, in the Spider-Man movies are not well represented. Spider-Man's not well represented in the new Spider-Man movies or any of the Spider-Man movies. Tobey Maguire is a total crybaby and unsuitable for the role of being Spider-Man. The 90s Task Spider-Man, I forget the guy's name who played the voice, he had it down. Spider-Man was nerdy, but he was funny. He looked like he could take care of himself. Whereas Tobey Maguire looks like a little whiny bitch, to be honest. Like, I'm not trying to be mean about it. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that about him, but um, uh, it's kind of true. But anyway, like I said, uh, people take stuff out of context. Like, I have gone to my t-shirt shop and go, look, they sell a lot of the Joker t-shirts. Not so much of the Heath Ledger ones, but mostly of the cartoon version, because there's a few different cartoon versions, and I'm not exactly familiar with the certain drawing styles of certain Jokers and how the character was portrayed in that particular media selection. Um, I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal when you look at it. Like, people can be anal retentive about these things, but it really shouldn't be. Joker t-shirt's just a t-shirt. Um, but yeah, people, if they can find an excuse to be offended, then they will take it. If that means that it'll advance whatever agenda that they have. And that's unfair. That's, um, that's trying to mine for basically any limp, pathetic excuse to exercise your authority over someone. And it is just an excuse. Your reason for doing it is probably bias, and it's slanted because someone like myself may be contradicting what what you have to say. And I say wearing a Joker t-shirt means nothing. Absolutely nothing. A lot of people would choose not to agree with me for the reason I stated. They're looking for an excuse. They're looking for dirt. And they will use any excuse they can find. And I do not have a single comic that is any good for one thing. I haven't even bothered to read any of them except I think I glanced over the X-Men one quickly, but it was like poorly drawn and it was not good. I think the other ones are like Anne Rice ones or something. She did some vampire stuff. I don't know. I didn't read them. Um, I mean, I was grateful that I got the comics from the guy, but he didn't give me any of the good ones. Even if he couldn't have sold the good ones, he wouldn't have given them to me. He was just unloading his shit. Anyway, I took them because what else was I gonna do? But like I do have a Carnage hoodie. I have Venom hoodie. Um, I've watched The Dark Knight, like a lot of people have. It doesn't mean certain things to me as it does to other people. I am in a very tender situation where I am surrounded by people who choose to be easily offended by anything and will use any limp excuse to advance their agenda. When the reason they're doing it is kind of sick and twisted in itself. Um, because anyone, you come ask me, you go, all right, I want to see all those comic books you got in your basements. Go ahead, look at them. You want to look at my internet history, find out what I've been looking at? Go ahead. There isn't anything that I couldn't explain or say, look, this is just there and it's there for everyone, and it's pretty normal stuff, actually. Um, Obviously, on the internet, there are some things that just about everybody looks up that they don't quickly admit to people. Uh, but there's not really much, if anything, really, that I could say that I wouldn't tell somebody if they asked me. Like, I don't know, I can't even think of an example. But the problem is when you get into this kind of situation that I'm in, um, people will use the ignorance of others and tell alternate facts. So they tell it in such a way that it's not really a lie. Like, I suspect there are people who are going to try and lie about my internet history, say that, oh, he does this, he does that, and it isn't true. Um, I suspect that my social media, although I haven't seen it personally, has been hijacked at some points. I don't know how it's possible that I couldn't have seen it, but there are things I don't check up on. My passwords are not difficult, and based on the YouTube content I have made, I could see others disagreeing with me to the point where they are going to say, oh, he said this, he said that, and there won't be anything to substantiate it. As far as my videos go, they're all there. The only one video that got blocked, it got blocked worldwide for uh, whatever reason. It was uh, kind of plagiarism, is why. All I did was superimpose Lady Gaga's face on Attila the Hun in a documentary called Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. Great documentary. I suggest you watch it. That was the only video I've ever made that got banned worldwide, and it's still available on my YouTube channel. But oddly enough, it's only available on my computer, not available on my iPhone. I don't know why that is. Not a big deal anyway. Someone came over to my house, I'd show it to them because it took a long time to make, and it was really hard too. I had to go through a whole process because I used it on my old computer. I had to I had to cut up the video into segments and then quickly put in the pictures that I wanted, renderize it, and then I had to record it with my camera and then upload it to YouTube. It took like 3 hours. I mean, it could have been better, I suppose, but I needed a better computer at the time, needed a better video editing program at the time. I could only do so much. Anyway, I just don't want people to go, oh, he's wearing a Carnage hoodie. Who knows what this guy's thinking, man? Like, the Carnage character in the comic books, he got up to some really fucked up stuff, man. And that's a bunch of bullshit. The fucking Carnage hoodie, I think looks cool anyway. And not only that, my only understanding of Carnage really is him from the 90s cartoon. And that cartoon was for young teenagers to watch. So, if somebody really has a problem with Venom or Carnage or anything like that, then, like, shouldn't that stuff not be on television for young people then? Honestly, I look back at it and it's like totally harmless. Um, they were the villains in the Spider-Man series. There were a few episodes of them that didn't go into great detail about them, and as people know, the comics kind of spun into different directions. And it will get to the point where there is enough money available to expand upon characters and make movies from them. Right now, it's still expensive to make movies, but in the future, more people will be able to make movies and they'll be able to expand upon uh, aspects of old media. Like for many many years, there were still only 3 episodes of Star Wars. It wasn't until early 2000, or was it 99? Yeah, I think it was 99 when Phantom Menace came out. Um, But now they're talking about making a Yoda movie, a Boba Fett movie. Um, Obviously, they're making the new Star Wars now. They want to make a Han Solo spinoff. All these sort of things, and that's because more money's available. And the reason why they didn't make those monies before is because the money wasn't available. Like George Lucas was on a shoestring budget when he made the first 3 movies, and they did turn out a profit and make big money, but um, it just, they didn't have the resources. So anyway, in the future, there will be uh, more in-depth story of certain characters from series and lots and lots and lots of movies. Um, we're still in the building process and getting political details in mind. But the main point I wanted to make is at this point in time, I have no interest in learning about the Joker in depth and learning about Harley Quinn in depth, Venom or Carnage or any of those people. So, yes, I did put some video clips that everyone watches on YouTube anyway onto social media, but I don't look up the more in depth um, nature of these characters. Jack Nicholson told Heath Ledger that the character would destroy him, and according to news reports, Heath Ledger died. So in theory, it did destroy him. Um, Jared Leto's still doing fine though, so I guess it didn't fly for him. But Heath Ledger, according to the news, he died. I don't believe it, but that's just my opinion. Um, like I know that a lot of people who watch my YouTube videos are highly judgmental, and they don't like me because of certain beliefs I have. They don't come out and say it, never comment on my YouTube channel as far as I know, but they don't agree with me on things. I know they don't. There's people who just do not agree with what I had to say because what little does get said on my YouTube channel and what I do see, for starters, is very dumbed down. Everything. Just about everybody I talk to on social media is a fucking moron, or at least looks like one, to the extent that they probably are a fucking moron. Um, it's real irritating when everybody you know talks to you like that. Um, like, what the fuck, man? Can you not even have a proper conversation? Like, I really am in a bubble in my own world, and I feel I'm being judged for things that aren't applicable to me. Um, and part of that stems from people's ignorance. And not only that, but those who know better, who perpetuate ignorance because they're trying to cover up their own mistakes, their own judgments that have turned out to be inaccurate. They're looking for dirt and they're not going to find any. Um, I mean, sure, I made mistakes in the past, but so has everyone. And making this social media, this YouTube channel, is not one of them. Um, Obviously, I got a lot to learn to actually turn a profit and actually get into the system and make this successful. But if it were easy, then everybody would do it, and it wouldn't be special. Um, so anyway, um, I have talked about serious subjects in my videos, my previous ones, but I do not go into depth about certain things. A lot of people like to assume I do. I don't. There's a lot of topics out there. All I know is they exist. I got a vague notion of them, and that's about it. Um, yeah, it's just, yeah, getting back to some people being triggered. Um, like I said in my previous video, I was banned on Facebook for 30 days for uttering the word Jew. I didn't say anything other than Jew. That's the only word I said that got me banned was the three-letter word. And like when they heard that three-letter word, they associated it with everything to do with the offensiveness to someone calling someone that word in that context. And that's absurd. Absolutely absurd. I mean, we're not fucking apes here. We're not fucking monkeys who respond to whistles, clicks, and fucking snaps of the finger. Um, like, why should anybody be taken seriously who chooses to be offended so easily and uses a defense mechanism by avoiding the conversation, in a sense, blocking me from you for Facebook as a way from uh, disabling any contradiction to what they have to say. Um, and they don't exactly tell you these rules or anything like that. They let people make their mistakes, and then they come along and judge them because the thing is, if people saw them for who they were, they would know they're the real sleazeballs. They're the ones with the dirty mouths, especially on the internet. Me, um, I look fouler, but I'm fairer. They look fairer, but they're fouler. And that's something that you need to understand if you're watching this video. You've gone through all the 23 minutes I've watched in this video. This is what you need to hear. You need to hear that the people who are judging me are so full of shit and the biggest hypocrites that are walking the earth, and they will talk to not just me, but everybody else like they're fucking stupid. And this is all because they can't fucking manufacture significant arguments against people uh, without using underhanded tactics, without using people's ignorance as a weapon against them. I don't know. All right, I'm being phoned right now. Talk to you guys later. See ya.